City of Sarah clips.
Prison survival. Discover yourself. Romans 5:3-4. Discover yourself is always the ultimate goal in life, and prison is one of the best places to take advantage of it because you have nothing but time. Malcolm X was one of those guys who turned a negative into a positive by examining himself, creating a character, and disconnecting from the character he created. Human beings were taught a lot growing up. Some things was good and some was bad. Now it's time to dig deep and get all that trash up out of you so you can become a better you. No one should go into prison and come out the same. The art to discovering yourself is discovering the problem and then finding the perfect solution. Getting rid of problems can be hard, especially if you have nothing to replace it with. A person who chooses not to identify the problem chooses not to change. So don't be a roadblock to yourself and hold yourself accountable. For example, you got a lust problem. Call it out. I have a lust problem with whatever desire it is. Then move forward to find a replacement that's positive, and when you fall short, give yourself self-discipline. One of my problems was anger and patience. My replacement was exercise, praying, and reading my Bible to line back up with my goals to better myself. In prison, you will be tested in so many ways that if your problem is like mine, it will show that you have anger and patience problems because officers plus inmates will push your buttons. A lot of inmates and officers are entertained by people getting out their character. That's how they pass their time. It's very important to learn your strong and weak points about yourself so you'll know your limits. Testimony by Dennis III Richardson in Harris County. I got into 6 fights for having toxic anger inside me. I was very quick-tempered, mind you, and with the 6 fights I got into, I didn't start them, but I finished them. I was so impatient and ready to fight because I was taught to kick butt and ask questions later. But as I matured, I learned in prison that most people in prison don't want to fight. They just put on a show to get you out of character and to make them look like a tough guy. But they chose the wrong one when they tried me. As a mature Christian now, I realize I won the battle but lost the war. It took for me to lose privileges like not being able to talk or see my family because I let anger get the best of me. So the last fight I got in, they sent me to the shitter. The shitter in Harris County is a small room with a hole in the floor where you shit, piss, eat, and sleep. Shaking and angry because I allowed Elaine to get me out of character, now I'm sitting in a cold shitter. So I started praying, and the Lord came to me and said, if you stop letting your anger and patience get in the way and let me fight your battles, you wouldn't be here. They didn't want to fight, you just took off first, so you failed the test. So I repented and asked God to forgive me, and I will let Him fight my battles. In school, what happens when you don't pass an important test? That's right. You must take it again. The Lord allowed me to build up first and worked with me on my anger and patience. Then boom, that test came. I'm now in prison. I just moved into cell 8 on the 2nd row. I had a legally blind cellmate and he knew of my positive, respectful character. We both have life sentences. The first thing he said, man, they messed over you. I said, how? He replied, I'm a psychiatric patient. I said, I ain't tripping. God put me in here. So after a day or two, it started getting heated. Bozos started showing his mental health issues, and my patience was being tried once again. One day he walked in the cell when I was laying down, and I said, what's good? How you doing? Gee. He looked at me with an attitude. I shaked it off them funny vibes I felt. I started praying to the Lord for peace. Next thing you know, he snapped saying, man, you need to get a job. I said, forget a job. I'm not working for these people for free. My mind is set on learning the law to give back this time. He replied, I need more cell time to smoke. I said, I stay out the cell most and all the time. What you mean? I hate being in a small cell with a man anyway, but I have no choice now that COVID-19 got us locked down. He said, I'm about to smoke my K2 stick, and whatever come with it, you're not gonna stop me. I jumped up, put on my shoes, and stood on the side of him about to lose my cool. I told him, one thing you gonna do is respect me when I'm in here. Don't fire that trash up. I'm looking dead in his cross eyes. I saw the coward in him, but he's trying his best to hide it. Then he said, I'm here for a murder case, trying to put fear in me. So I replied, I'm here for something I didn't do, and I will do whatever it takes to protect myself so I can make it back to the world, to my kids and family. We locked eyes, both mean mugging each other. Next thing he said, man, you need to tell them you want to move to another cell. I replied, I ain't going nowhere and you not smoking while I'm in here. You better stop taking my kindness for weakness. His legally blind self started seeing I wasn't a pushover cellmate like the other ones, and he ran off. He jumped back on the bunk and said it's all good. I may pack my bags and get moved. So they rolled the doors and I went out to the day room and started exercising to calm down my anger. Finally back to a cool feeling of no pressure, I pulled back up to the cell where a female guard was at the cell. She asked me, "Your cell?" Lee said, "Y'all having problems?" I replied, "Not me, he is." He handed the guard an I-60 with a message on it. Me thinking nothing of it, I walked into the cell with him. The doors closed and she walked off. 5 minutes later, she walked back up and said, "You ready?" He jumped off the bunk and grabbed his red chain bag with all his stuff in it. The female guard gave me a cold, funny look and walked off shaking her head with that look she gave me. It made me wonder what was on that I-60 to get him moved so fast, because in prison you don't get moved easily unless it's an emergency, a fight happened, or it's a life or death problem. I laid back down in my cell alone and I started asking God, did I pass the test? Because the old me would have took off on him, but I had to trust God to fight my battles. Well, 4 hours later, the SGT and higher rank officer showed up at the door with handcuffs and then said, "Richardson, we need to talk to you. Put your hands behind your back," as the prison bars rolled. They walked me down to the major's office with shorts, t-shirt, and Reeboks. I was in a state of shock when the SGT said, "You know why you were here?" I said, "No." He said, "Bozo, your cellmate, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he said you raped him." My eyes got so big because I never expected to hear that. It blew my mind. I said, "Hell nah. He mad because I won't let him smoke while I'm in the cell." SGT replied, "I know it's not true. He pulled this on another cellmate that he was afraid of. If he can't run you off, then he would pull these types of stunts." I said, "Wow, that's crazy. Someone would put a jacket on himself or someone else. Put a jacket on yourself means putting a bad reputation on yourself or someone else." The major said, "Well, we got to go through the safe prisons, PRIA process. They go and document it, and then you can go back to the cell. You have nothing to worry about." The PRIA officer pulled up and asked me a lot of questions, then sent me back to the wing. Bad news travels fast, and when I got back to the wing, everyone had questions. I just went into my cell and started praising God because that could have went the other way, and it could have hurt my appeal. The next day, what happened last night was all over the Ellis unit, and all eyes was on me. The gang members who Bozo was down with came to me apologizing, saying, "That's a jacket you shouldn't put on a real nigga. If TDCJ don't ship Bozo, we gon' violate him. Sorry that happened, cuz." Well, just when I thought my test was over, a week later Bozo returned after his rape kit came back negative. The crazy part is they tried to put him back in the same cell as me. I wasn't feeling that at all. I felt like it was a setup. He walked on the wing and made an announcement, "If anybody messed up with me, we can do some punching." The whole wing stayed quiet. Then he walked in the day room and found me. He said, "Let's go to 3 row to do some punching." I was like, "Hell not, I fight anywhere, jump off." But then I used wisdom. I said, "This is a setup. Who sent you? Priya already got us documented." So I walked off trying to keep my cool, but he still was barking with no bite, putting on a show. I went to the cell and packed my property because I refused to be in there with someone who falsely accused me, especially when I'm already in jail for being falsely accused of something I didn't do. All I heard now, after I got all my property packed up, is him saying, "I'm ready to do some punching." All eyes on us, God highlighted the scene, and people was ready for us to be their entertainment. People in my ear saying, "Go on and whip him," then heard the preacher man saying, "He can't do nothing to you, God won't allow it, go pray." Then, as I was walking downstairs, I told a guy named Bell, a writ writer, that I'm about to go whip him. Then Bell said, "Why would you do that? You tripping, you got action on getting out, let him talk." A writ writer is a jailhouse lawyer who studies the law and writes and files legal work for other inmates. I said, "You right." I started praying and walked downstairs. Then all of a sudden, Sergeant Doe and the guards ran in and told him he was moving downstairs and I could unpack and stay in 2-8B cell. Bozo got his wish to be cellmate free, so he went in his cell, and that was it for him that day. The next day, Bozo came up to me during lunchtime and apologized. He said, "I want to have a Christian walk like you got, because I lied on you and tried to provoke you to fight, but you still didn't get out of character. How you do it?" I told him the story when I used to be quick-tempered, ready to fight, but now I let God fight my battles. It's a promise I made to God. I'm not here to please man, only God. Then I told him I'm not perfect, but if you would have put your hands on me, we would have fought because I haven't mastered turning the other cheek yet. He started crying and apologizing and said, I've been praying too, and I promise to God I won't smoke or do meth no more. Can we pray together? Then we both bowed our heads while everyone was looking and prayed. The next day, Bozo got a new cellmate from H-Town who just beat a huge prison alcohol case. His name was G-Man. G-Man was a cool hustler who loved to smoke and chill. They put them in the same cell, and less than 24 hours later, Bozo comes to me and said, man, can you get my property cause me and G-Man about to do some punching? He trying to smoke in the cell. Thinking to myself, I was like, that's crazy because that's why we fell out. Next, G-Man came to me and said, man, I'm about to do him third. I know you couldn't cause you trying to go home. So they both went to third row to fight. The guard saw them upstairs and made them come down. She said, go in the cell. Bozo goes in the cell. Then G-Man came right behind him and the prison bars slammed. They got to fighting and we was watching from the day room. Now let me remind you that Bozo is legally blind, so G-Man is getting the best of him because he can't see that well. Next thing we know, we hear G-Man screaming. He biting my face, help. Bozo was biting G-Man's face, chewing and locked on it and wouldn't let go. Inmates started beating on windows for help because all we saw was blood flying. The guards and rank came, but Bozo still was locked to G-Man's face like a pit bull on a stake. The guards had to gas them and then roll the doors. It was hard to break them apart because Bozo was eating his face off and wouldn't let go. Now, a big swole guard grabbed Bozo with all his strength, then handcuffed him. He came out with blood all over his lips like a vampire. It took the guards 10 minutes to get G-Man out because he was losing so much blood. When they brought G-Man out, nobody could recognize him because part of his face was missing, like Hannibal Lecter ate it, and his face was covered with blood. Now let's play the tape back. Sometimes God will use circumstances to help you discover yourself. What I discovered was I had love, mercy, grace, patience, etc. in me when I released the anger and learned patience. Also, I discovered that the Lord really does fight your battles, but you just gotta trust him and pray. Being quick to fight would have got me like my homie G-Man, missing pieces of my face with a first-class trip to the hospital to get plastic surgery. It took wisdom to know that I wouldn't have gained anything by fighting a legally blind fool. When you create good character, no one can tarnish that. No matter how strong the lies are, that's why it's important to discover yourself and stay solid. Others learned a lot as well during my tests. They discovered my strength with the Lord, the wisdom I gained, how to stay with a calm, positive attitude during heated moments and not letting the enemy throw me in a wreck. Now, I am known as a strong, blessed man on the unit for surviving a crazy storm/test that most people would have failed. Character reference by Dr. Christopher Dunst. Dr. Christopher D. is an inmate who is serving life on the Ellis unit. He was the first doctor to be prosecuted and convicted in the world. There's also a TV show about him called Dr. Death. Christopher Dunst is a really good friend of mine and watched me discover myself during dark situations. You never know who is paying attention to you, and a lot of people discover themselves by watching others, learning from the good or bad habits. My friend Christopher Dunst paid attention to me even before we met. He loved the way I carried myself and said he had to add some of my qualities to himself. Once we happened to sit down and have a conversation, we became the best of friends even though we were from different lifestyles. I'm a street entrepreneur, and he is a 7-degree holding, college-educated doctor and Wall Street businessman. What's crazy is God allowed us to be cellmates for 6 months. He learned about me, and I learned about him. We both could write a book about each other after being cellmates with Christopher Dunst. We no longer call each other friends, we call each other brothers. So with that being said, always try to discover yourself and better yourself because someone is always watching for the good or bad. This is what Dr. Dunst had to say about me. Letter by Dr. Christopher Dunst. I have had the opportunity to observe Third over several years and in many situations of all different kinds. I have come to know Third as a man of deep and consistent character and respect him greatly. In his personal life, he maintains himself in the best possible manner given the circumstance, Physically, he's aggressive about maintaining physical fitness through weightlifting and exercise. Mentally, he is constantly challenging himself and learning about life and his place in it through reading and studies. Socially, he is well liked, has many friends, and always maintains a positive and optimistic perspective. Spiritually, he is truly a man who lives in humility and fear of the Lord. He gives all things to God and is quick to share his faith with others. Third has demonstrated that he is a fighter regarding his case and his goal to return to the world in freedom. I truly believe that he will ultimately prevail in his case and return to the world to do great and remarkable things in the future. In summary, Third is a man of the Lord and a man of character.